Today I want to give you a lesson about order of operations. Order of operations is when you have a number sentence or an expression that has more than one operation in it. The operations are usually things like addition, multiplication, division, subtraction, exponents, and things inside parentheses. So for an example, if we had 6 squared minus 9 times 2, there is only one answer for this expression. Let me see if I can get this a little more focused. There we go, a little bit. There's only one answer for this expression. And I visualized back in the day when people were trying to figure this out, like in England where there were kings and queens that could change things on a whim. They could decide that a foot was as long as their actual foot, and basically what they said went. I kind of picture someone being like, I think that subtraction should be first because I love words that start with S. And somebody else would come along and say, no, I think we should multiply first because multiplying is fun. And it came apparent that they needed to have some rules about what came first and what came second and what the order was so that everybody would get the same answer. So the order that they decided on, we refer to as PEMDAS. Hopefully you have heard that before. And I like to write it like this because I picture these as 4 steps. The first step, we always do parentheses. And this became essential because there were times where people needed to add first before they multiplied, or they needed to divide before they did the exponents. And the parentheses give the mathematician the priority of putting in what they want done first. And they're kind of a look at me, do this first type of thing. The second step is to solve any exponents. And these are exponents. You've played some games earlier about exponents. And if you need more practice in those, make sure that you look at the assignments or the games that have exponents in them. After we do exponents, then we multiply or divide. Step 3 is multiply or divide. And it doesn't mean necessarily multiplication is first and then division. We decide those left to right. And last, the fourth step is add or subtract. And again, those are done left to right. And the way that I picture these is that so they did them in the order of powerfulness and when you learn things. So if you think about how powerful things are, if you multiply numbers, you get a much bigger number than if you're just adding those numbers. And if you do an exponent of a number, you get huge numbers compared to when you just multiply and divide. Also think about when you learn these. You learned addition and subtraction probably way back in kindergarten, and you didn't learn multiplication and division until 3rd or 4th grade. And then you didn't learn exponents until 5th or 6th grade. So they also kind of, the powerfulness or the difficultiness of them kind of goes along as well. The way that I picture these two is I picture them as boy-girl twins. Multiplication and division are a lot alike. They do a lot of the same things, but they're also different. But that's why they're the same powerfulness. You learn multiplication and division together, and so that's what it decides left to right because they have the same amount of power. Same thing with addition and subtraction. They're in the same family. They have a lot of similarities. However, they are different, but they are the same powerfulness. So again, they are decided left to right. So one thing that I like to kind of do is either I like to draw a visual for myself when I know I'm doing order of operations of either this, or you can do a stair step because these are the steps to order of operations. So we kind of start at parentheses, and then the next step would be exponents, solving those exponents. And then the next step would be multiplication or division, left to right. And the final step is add, subtract. In my class, one of my favorite activities is I actually do a doctor show about this, and I perform an operation, get it, order of operations, and we talk about how first you have to pry open your patient, because if you don't know what's inside, you don't know what you're doing. Next, you have to expose the organs so you can see which one is bad and which one you need to do. Then you need to multiply your disinfectant strategies, multiply and divide, because you don't want any germs to get in there. And the final step is and stitch. You got to stitch your patient up. But if you stitch your patient up before you multiply your disinfectant options, which means getting rid of all the germs, there could be an infection in there. Or if you stitch them up before you expose the organs, you don't have anything to stitch yet. And if you haven't pried them open, again, you don't have anything to stitch. So these are kind of the steps that I think of. So then when I'm solving a problem like 6 squared minus 9 times 2, every single time I go through the steps. So I ask myself, are there any parentheses? No. Are there any exponents? Yes. So I complete that exponent first. 6 squared. Remember, it's all about that base. Hopefully you listen to that song. So this would be 6 times 6, which would be 36. And then I rewrite the problem. I know that mathematicians are lazy, but we like to be accurate. So although there's a lot of steps to these, it is the best steps and the easiest steps to do to get the correct answer, because it doesn't matter if it's easy and we get the wrong answer. We need to make sure that we're getting the correct answer. So next I go through my steps again because I still have multiple operations here. So I ask myself, any parentheses? Nope. Any exponents? Nope. Any multiplication or division? Yes. Right here I have multiplication and division. So I like to do a little caret that shows I'm taking care of this 9 and this 2. So that would be 18. So when I rewrite the problem, I rewrite anything outside of that caret. And now I'm down to 36 minus 18. When I get to addition or subtraction, I've trained myself to really check, am I ready to stitch up this patient? Or are there other things that need to be done? In this case, nothing else to be done, so the patient is ready to be stitched up. 36 minus 18, and I would do that over here in my work zone because I have to do some borrowing. 16 minus 8 is 8. 2 minus 1 is 1. And I end with 18 as my answer. One more I want to show you real quick would be if I had something like 6 squared minus 4 squared times 2. When you have a set of parentheses, PEMDAS starts over inside those parentheses. So here I have multiple operations within these parentheses, so I would just go back to my steps again to see which ones I do first. So parentheses, yes, that tells me I need to focus here. Inside the parentheses, are there any parentheses? There are times, and in 7th grade you will do order of operations that have parentheses inside of parentheses. So I have 6 squared minus 4 squared, no other parentheses. I do have exponents, so I'm going to solve those first. So again, it's all about that base. We have 6 squared, which is 36, minus 4 squared, 4 times 4, 16, parentheses, times 2. I rewrite the problem. I start again. Any parentheses? Yes, right here. I have 36 minus 16, which is going to be 20. So I have solved for those parentheses. I don't need them anymore. So now I just rewrite this. 20 times 2 would equal 40. All right, next I want you to try a problem and do it on your own and then check, push pause, solve it, and then check back with me to see if you got the same answer that I got. So here we have 3 squared plus 5 times 4. So write that on your piece of paper and solve it. And when you have it solved, check back to see if you did the same steps that I did. Okay, if you are back with me, that means that you have solved your problem. Let's see if you did it the same way I did. First, I would have written my steps, parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, subtract. And I like to write them like this instead of out like with the M and the D and the A and the S so that I can see that these are the same steps and that they are left to right. So here I have any parentheses? No. Any exponents? Yes. 3 squared, it's all about that base. 9, 3 times 9, rewrite the problem. Sometimes it gets tempting to do something quick that you see and you know, oh, 5 times 4, that's 20. I can do that real quick and be done. But remember, that is, you have to go in the specific order or you will taking shortcuts will lead to mistakes. So I have 9 plus 4, 5 times 9 plus 5, and 5 times 4. Any parentheses? No. Any exponents? No. Multiplication or division? Yes. So I need to take care of this here. So 5 times 4 is 20 plus 9. And then there's nothing else. I am at the stitching part and stitch, the final step. I want to make sure there's absolutely nothing else I need to do. There isn't, so I feel confident that my answer should be 29. Hopefully you got 29 as well. All right, let me give you a few more problems to complete and see if you get the same things that I get. So the next problem I would like you to do would be, let's do, looking for a good one for you here. Here we go. Here's a good one. Let's do 72 divided by parentheses 3 squared minus 3 parentheses plus 2 squared. Try that one and check back with me when you have it completed to see if you did it the same way I did it. All right, if you're back with me, that means you completed this problem. Let's see, did you do it the way I did? So I'm going to put my visual here, parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, subtract. So any parentheses? Yes. Inside parentheses, PEMDAS starts again. Any parentheses? No. Any exponents? Yes. So I do 9 minus 3. I haven't completed everything inside the parentheses yet, so I keep the parentheses there and I rewrite my problem. Then any parentheses? Yes. 9 minus 3 is 6. Now I've done everything inside the parentheses, so I'm done. I can drop the parentheses. Any parentheses? No. Any exponents? Yes. I need to solve this first. 2 times 2 is 4. Rewrite the problem. Any parentheses? No. Any exponents? No. Any multiplication or division? Yes. I have this 72 divided by 6, which is going to be 12. And if I couldn't do that in my head, I would use this workspace over here to do this because I don't want to mess up my work in here and get lost of which side is going to where. So I like to create a workspace over here and then I get my answer and move it over here so that this part stays nice and neat. So now I have 12 plus 4. Any parentheses? No. Exponents? No. Multiply or divide? No. Add, subtract. Am I sure that's the very last thing? Am I ready to stitch up my patient? Yes. 12 plus 4 is going to equal 16. Did you get 16 as well? I hope so. All right, that is your lesson or reminder about order of operations. You can practice as much as you need using the different videos and the different activities. This will be something that is added on to in 7th grade, and your problems will get even more complicated. So it is something we want to have a really good grasp on.